Priya, when we work with global teams, culture comes in the way of getting our work done often. And a lot of global organizations that we see have now their capability centers in Asia and India. But when it comes to culture, there are always these gaps that need to be addressed in terms of execution, communication, and all kinds of results. So, how do you think that can be addressed?
Absolutely, a very pertinent question because that's really a big challenge for organizations, especially global teams when they're
Right,
working together.
right,
This really comes, and people are aware that culture is very important. There is a lot of knowledge, skills, and everything which is imparted on both sides.
right.
But still, there exist some gaps.
Yeah,
And how do those gaps come is people jump into uh, understanding culture at a very broad sense. They
right,
understand it from geographical and political boundaries, but not
right.
necessarily from the individual dimensions.
Hmm, hmm.
So how do a group of individuals work together? How is their dimension? How do they view hierarchy, or how do they view time? How do they view aspects around information sharing? How do they think, basically? What's their approach to thinking? So those are some of the uh, uh, dimensions that need to be sorted out, often goes missing. Whereas cultural and political boundaries are viewed as culture in the very first lens. So it's important to get into some of the working aspects of culture
Right.
that can help us to start working together. So one way is that. The second one is leadership across both the geographies
Mhm.
need to start learning to play constructive politics.
Right.
When I say constructive politics, what does it mean? Politics is basically the clash of self interests, but learning to understand that, hey, every person has an agenda, and now how do we come together and widen that, or larger the agenda to achieve more together and really see collaboration happen.
Right.
So oftentimes, leaders have skills, capabilities. They learn to understand execution dimensions, getting work done across. So some of those dimensions are understood, but really not understanding what is the leader's agenda. What is it that they want to achieve, and how should we achieve it together? That larger boundary and frame is often not discussed. It goes
Right.
missing in the
Right.
busyness of getting the execution and the all the other stickiness to getting this entire thing working, right? Global teams working. So constructive politics and learning to play that should be clearly discussed. The second dimension is also, I would say, the executive presence of leadership on both sides that looks at two or three dimensions. First is to say, how do we have an even playing ground? We're global teams, but there's not one team which is bigger and one team that is lower. And so
Hmm,
we
hmm.
got to have that supremely confident leaders who have
Right.
the ability to level set.
Right.
And they're also confident enough to set norms, guidelines, boundaries, and thinking, basically to it is the leader's job to get this done early on, so that they're able to get aspirational teams. So oftentimes I see this as a big challenge in some of the GCCs that we work with. How can we get our teams to get more aspirational? They're very execution and operationally driven, but not having that aspiration. But this
Right.
comes when the leaders on both sides have that capability to level set, to also have the confidence to set boundaries, guidelines, norms, and the gives and gets very effectively, so
Right.
that team also understands when they work with a lot of gray, they get into operational focus. So they don't aspire for more because there's a lot of gray. But if
Right, right,
leaders have that supreme confidence, executive presence, and the ability to see beyond and give them these milestones while working with a lot of gray, then there is a lot more that can be achieved in global teams, and the global integration can be more seamless, and a lot can be achieved. And but the it's a step by step effort to build leaders on both sides. I see a lot of investment in one side of the equation but not on the other side, and
right.
that's it's a little tilted at all times, and
Yeah,
that's where we need to level set and work together to achieve more.
right, right. Great answer, Priya.